There we go. The song tonight is by Lecrae, and it's featuring C Light, aka Andy Mineo.
Welcome to another episode of Do You Really Know God? This episode is in God's hands. I'm going to go a little bit about why trust in God and what it looks like to trust in God. I'm going to start off with Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not dismay, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand.
I like that one.
What he's basically saying, because we had a discussion the other day about this, yesterday I believe. Devin had a concern of putting his life in God's hands, of wondering, he goes, I can't just put it in God's hands because I got a baby on the way, I got health insurance, I got to make money to pay bills and all this. When God says put all your trust, your anxiety, your fears all into Him and leave it up to Him, He does not mean you to go sit on your butt and just let Him handle everything. Okay, I can promise you one thing, if you go in the woods and you do nothing but sit there, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
You're gonna die. He's not gonna do everything for you. He is going to help you go from what you're already doing.
Right.
So what he's gonna do is he's gonna fill the gaps that you can't do, and what he's gonna do is he's gonna strengthen you in other ways to help you excel to make it farther. He's gonna strengthen you. He's gonna hold you. He's gonna he wants you to take your fears and your worries and your stresses and leave it in his hands. You just do what you gotta do to make money, and he's gonna make sure that it happens.
Yeah.
Is what he's saying. He's not saying be lazy and leave everything in him and he's gonna do everything. That's not what he's saying.
No, he's saying stop worrying about it. He's saying like, yeah, you know, it may be hard, it may be whatever, but don't stress it. Just you keep doing you, keep following me, keep doing the right thing, and I'll make sure it happens for you.
Exactly. I just was going to say, I forgot to quote. I just had a quote, and we can relive this, but I had a quote and it just totally left my mind. Basically, a great speaker once said, actually several of them said it, fear is worrying about something that may or may not happen tomorrow that will ruin you today.
Mm-hmm.
Why fear about something that may or may not happen? Well, God is saying, do not fear, for I have you. So, do not stress, for He has you. You feel weak, He is your strength. He will strengthen you. He's not saying be lazy, do nothing now, He will take care of everything. He's telling you to do what your best that you can,
Yeah.
and He will take over on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
He will take over. He'll make sure your fears are taken care of. He'll make sure that every aspect of your life is taken care of in the kingdom of God.
Isaiah, what do you think? You had you were the one that came up with this topic.
So I kind of came up with this topic, and it was because I've had trouble with the thinking of just letting God have the reins in certain aspects of my life, and I've seen it with people around me, people that I care about. They don't, I feel like they don't put their full trust in God, and they don't necessarily let God just kind of take control here and there, and where it needs to be, where certain things that we can't help in our lives, we have to ask, we have to pray, because the Bible says, ask and you shall receive. And it's talking about prayer. So, with our prayer, and I've talked about prayer in other podcasts, how prayer is very much important, but most importantly, when you're praying to God, you're not only asking Him to be present in your life, but you're also asking Him to work in your life. Again, like letting Him take the reins when things are out of your control, then that's where God will step in and say, hey, I've got it, I've got you. I will catch, like say if there are people that do like stunts, kind of like at a circus, at a carnival and things like that, and they're doing these acrobatics and stuff without nets, right? And sometimes there is a net. And it's kind of based on the request, though, if you want that net to be there or not. So basically when you pray, you're either asking God to either be that net, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're not praying. Maybe your trust isn't there. Maybe your faith isn't there yet. And you know what? That's okay, because our faith is meant to grow. I think that's a really big thing with this topic is how much faith, and we've had multiple talks on faith and other things like that. So
hello, Michelle.
One thing you gotta kind of look at is, for example, I'll give a quick story. Anybody who knows me, I mean, there's been a few times I stress with everything going on and with when bills come up a lot. I stress from time to time, but on the most part, I pretty much keep a cool level demeanor going, and I don't really stress. And it's funny because one guy from the church comes to the shop from time to time, and he goes to me, he goes, man, he goes, I see everything you got going on. He goes, you got all these bills, you got all this, you got that. He's like, how are you so calm all the time? And I tell him right out all the time, I'm like, because you know what? I'm not going to stress over it because God has me. And he goes, man, he goes, I've been a Christian. He goes, I'm a true believer. He goes, but I still stress. He goes, I can't get over it. Here's the deal. It does get stressful when you know that big bills are coming up and you don't got the money yet to pay for it. But here's the one thing I've learned, especially owning this shop, is when you have faith in God and you put your faith in God and you keep working and pushing to get to the goal, He always provided. He always made that one thing come up just right so you could pay your bills. He would always make that one thing go right to make the day go smoother. He would always, no matter how hectic it got, so long as you kept trying and you put 100% into it, He always was there to provide, to make sure it happened. Yes, did we do the actual work to get to that point? We did. But without Him, we would have never got the work to get in to do that. He provided the jobs. We just had to complete it to get the money. Or He provided the right customers or the right jobs, or He provided the right help, or whatever the case may be, He provided what we needed to get us to where we needed to go.
Right. I'm right there with you, Mom. She says, I stress every day, all day, but I do also pray about it. I need to learn to leave it all. I'll get there one day.
We all will. It is the hardest thing to not stress and not have the fear or whatever.
Well, I think
It's the hardest thing, but
I think the
takes a lot
reason
of
it
work.
is so hard is you have that. Even if you're the biggest believer, you have that little molecule of doubt.
Yeah.
Because nobody has physically seen God. Nobody has physically seen Jesus.
No,
And
but
you also have the devil speaking in your ear at all times, who's giving you that little bit, even if it's the smallest amount. That smallest amount when you get to your stress and when you get to the point where you don't even know how you're going to do it. You don't know. You're just sitting there and saying, all right, something needs to happen. He takes that little doubt and amplifies it, and that's why I believe it's so hard.
But here's the thing: is yes, we never physically seen him per se, but if you pray right and you listen right, you've heard him, you've felt him, you vibe him. He's in your soul. You just gotta look for him, and you gotta want to feel him, see him, hear him.
Yeah.
And you will. Yeah, you ain't gonna see him like the person walking in the room. But you can feel his presence. You can
Right.
feel his energy.
Yeah.
You can hear his thoughts. He knows what you need. And here's the problem with society. Is society and people, and this is Christians, this is all religions, this is no biased form per se. We all want that $1 million.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people don't pray to God to say, hey, let me make enough to pay my bills today. No, people pray to God and say, hey, I need $1 million. I need you to give me $1 million. God is not going to give you $1 million. It just ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Hate to break it to anybody, but it ain't going to ever happen.
Yeah. And not to so actually the whole reason I came up with this topic tonight was me and Devin were talking the other morning about it came to my mind somebody that I actually kind of really admired. He's dead now. It's actually, well,
He's dead now.
well, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but it was actually his 10th anniversary of his passing yesterday. It was Steve Jobs, and we were actually just talking about, I was talking to him about Steve Jobs and how I kind of admired how he did things, how he kind of, he really had a vision for his own company. He wanted control all the time. That's what Steve Jobs was all about, was him in control of personal things in his life and in his company, on the projects that he would be working on at his company. Like, he worked on the computer Lisa, and then he worked on the Macintosh, and he wanted all of that control. He wanted complete control. And what he did actually with the Macintosh was something that he called end-to-end control, where nobody would be able to actually open themselves the computer of the Macintosh. You actually needed special tools to open that computer. So he had this really strong wanting of control of everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that I somewhat, admired, but as we were talking the other morning about it, it kind of came to mind where, like, it's good to have control over your life. It's good to have control over your words and over your thoughts, and over what happens in your personal life. But there are things where it gets really tough, where it just feels totally out of our control. And so, again, that's where God steps in, or that's where God should step into your life.
I can give you a little heartbreaker. Nobody has control of your life. If you think about it, we have a semi-control of right and wrong direction, but full control we do not have.
No, yeah,
Full
no,
control,
absolutely not.
God has control. If you go in
Yeah.
the right direction, you go in the wrong direction, the devil has control. We have no control of what happens. We just have control of what path we're going to follow.
Well, it's just like, I heard someone say one time, and this was actually, not my specific drill sergeant, but when you go through basic training, you go through retention first, which is basically like the pre-basic training. It's where they give you your uniforms and all that. And he was a drill sergeant, or he was a retiring drill sergeant, so he was in retention. And they were more relaxed for the most part and stuff like that. But he actually said, because we got on he was talking to a group of us, and it was more of just like a normal talk rather than a drill sergeant to a private. Because he was retiring, and he said that he wanted his last, I think he had a year and a half left. He said he wanted that last year and a half to really, rather than scare soldiers and trainees, he wanted to inspire them, he wanted to help them.
Yeah.
And so he came to us one time after dinner chow, and we were all just kind of talking, and he was kind of giving us some life lessons and everything. And he said that one of the kids asked the best advice he could give for life in general, not even basic training, but he said it applies to basic training as well, which I 100% agree, is you have to learn to react.
Yep.
Life is not about living. Life is not about creating opportunities. Life is about reacting to what you are given.
Yep. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Because, like, you wake up in the morning, you can say, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store, then I'm going to get home, I'm going to cook breakfast, and then I'm going to do this, this, and this. But then you go start your car outside, battery's dead.
Yep.
So now how are you going to react to that to adjust and still achieve your goal for the day?
Exactly. And you got to think about it, and I'm going to use a movie parody, kind of like, of Days of Thunder. After Cole Trickle gets in that accident, and then he can't get back in the car because he keeps having flashbacks and all that, and then him and the girlfriend gets into that road rage with a taxi cab driver, and she gets out and she said, your problem is you think you have control, but you're just a bunch of egomaniacs out there that could die at any second, but you think you have control. And being a race car driver, it's 100% true. When you're out there in the race car and you're driving, we think we have control of that car, but you don't. You're hitting a corner at heavy speeds. You're making a piece of metal or car do something it's not meant to do. And at any given time, you could get a blowout of the tire. You could blow the engine. Anything can happen to that car which will cause you to crash that is way out of your control. Or somebody else might lose control and run into you, which makes you crash, which is way out of your control. During the whole entire race process, I don't care who you are, and I will argue with anybody about it, there is not one driver who has full control of that car who has planned that whole race. There is not a driver out there who can go out there and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to win it and that's going to be it. If you did do it, it was luck. It was God in the car with you. It was pure luck. Because there's no way you can predict what's going to happen to your piece of metal or somebody else's piece of metal or the driving at any given time, just like our lives. If we say that we have full control of our lives, you're lying. Well, I know I can walk out of here tonight, step outside, and a car could come running through the driveway and run me over. And I'm dead. You don't have control.
Mom says our life is already planned out for us before we were born. God does give us a few choices, and it's up to us to figure out the right ones with life's challenges and trial and error.
You're right, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's where we talk about free will.
Yeah.
God gave us free will. So it's a matter of up to us and what path we're going to take in with that free will.
Well, I like to think of it as, they say, whenever you're talking about someone, this is all, whenever you're talking with someone about life, this is what they're going to say, whether they're trying to be down on life, or they're trying to be up, give you motivation about it, however you want to say. There's one phrase that I've heard almost literally every person I've ever talked to say, and that is the game of life.
Yes.
Because life is legitimately a game. And this is the way I think of it, is you have the game of life, right? We're all playing the game of life. We're all just trying to get through life and be successful, be loving, be loved, be, all the things that we look at in a positive light.
Yep.
Right? And it's just like, I know we've all played it, maybe in different forms or whatever, but the game, Would You Rather? Mm-hmm. You can't go into that game planning how you're going to play. You can't go in that game already knowing your answers, because they're different questions with different people. And that's exactly how we live life. You can sit there and you can plan and be like, oh yeah, this person's going to ask me this, and I'm going to choose this, and blah, 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 blah. But the second they ask one question out of order, or they even come up with a totally different another question, at that point, it's like, okay, I didn't expect this. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
And the game of life, and the whole point of the podcast, which we named In God's Hands, which is basically about, like Isaiah was saying earlier, it's like, Jesus, take the wheel. And
that was the first thought of what we were going to name the podcast, actually.
Right. But it's legitimately that. And I think even that song, I don't know if you've actually ever heard that song, because a lot of people know of the song, but don't know actually what the song is about. That song is about a single mother who just got
out of control, don't know how to.
She doesn't know how to live life. She can't provide for her baby and all this, and she's just driving down the road, and it's snowy and all that. She loses control of the car, and she's at the point in her life where rather than even trying to save it, she just lets go and says, Jesus, take the wheel. If you want me to live, take the wheel.
Believe it or not, actually, if you think deeper in the meaning, she may not actually be driving down the road. Well, the meaning is behind it. Basically, her life is in a spiral.
Yeah.
And she's a single mother, and she's trying everything she can, and her life is in a spiral to the point where she don't know how to recover, and she don't know if she can recover.
Yeah.
So she winds up just saying, I can't do this on my own. I give up. Jesus, you take the wheel. You help me. You show me. You guide me.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to say is, that everyone is going to have a point. I don't care if they're the richest person in the world. And it doesn't even always have to be about money. Everyone in their life, at least minimum once, is going to go through this.
Probably at least once a year. Everybody got at least that one dilemma that you've been at your wit's end.
Right, and it's just eating you, and it's tearing apart at you, and you're just finally so down and done with everything to the point where you literally just say, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, if you want to go a step farther with that, I mean, here's the thing. If you believe in God, you trust in God, and you put your worries and fears into God's hand, you know you're going to make it, and He's going to make you through. You're good. You're going to be okay. You know you're going to make it through.
Yeah.
I feel, and I mean, this may only be my theory, but I think a lot of people who commit suicide, the problem is they lost God. Mm-hmm. So they hit that low in their life and they see no other way out.
No,
so if they really, really, truly believe in God, they understand that there's an out. There's a way out. Yeah. God has you. it's the people who don't have God in their life. They hit that point and they don't have no other choice. They don't know how to grab God. They feel there's no other way, so they commit suicide.
And you know what? The thing is, and a lot of people say this, some of the happiest people, some of the most joyful people, a lot of comedians are the ones that actually commit suicide.
One of the most depressed in that.
Right.
But here's the problem, because I can honestly say, I've had low moments in my life, very low moments in my life, where I was at that point of, why am I even still here? Mm-hmm. And then I hear God saying, because you're meant to be here. I know that God has me. I would never commit suicide because I know, even at my lowest point, yes, it may hurt, it may be tiresome, the fight gets old, but God has me. Yeah. So I know at that point, when I hit my lowest, all I gotta do is kneel down, pray, and say, Jesus,
well, the way I think about it is, even when you're at your lowest low, God has you. It's going to be worth it.
It's gonna.
Like we've said multiple times on the podcast, there's a quote from the Bible: God won't give you more than you can handle.
Yeah. Yep.
Everything that you go through, you can handle.
All you gotta do is put your faith in Him, because
exactly.
He gives you the strength. You gotta think about everything. I love this phrase. I've seen it many times in a lot of different motivational speakers. Think about it. Life is like a bow and arrow. Okay? You take a bow and arrow, you gotta pull it back, right? Mm-hmm. That's the low in your life. You're hitting that low. It's gonna be pulled back. Yeah. But better low that you have, or bigger low you have, the farther you're gonna launch and the better outcome you're gonna have.
Yeah, wow.
So I like that phrase. Hit that low, that's just being pulled back on the boat. And then if you stick to it, eventually you're gonna be let go and you're gonna hit your target.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and like what Devin was saying, God tests us, not just for our faith and whatnot, but how we react to the situations that He puts us in. Again, God doesn't give us too much for us to handle. He gives us as much as He knows that we can handle. It's just the way that
we go about handling.
Right, how we handle it, and how we react, and how we think, and how we get, how we push through these things in our lives. And something that I actually very much live by is that everything happens for a reason. There's nothing that happens that I don't believe that it didn't happen for a reason. There was a reason behind it.
Either a blessing or a lesson.
Yeah.
But there was something behind it.
Yeah. And I've had to learn that quite a few times through my life.
You gotta think about this with control. This is how out of control our lives are, that we just don't realize it. We think we have control. You got parachuters. Every time you jump from that plane, you don't know if that chute's gonna open. You're hoping it's gonna open. Yeah. It's all on faith. Everything we do in life is on faith. You talk about Steve Jobs.
Yep.
With his business. Yes, he's a smart dude. But if he went into business, and I'm sure there's many computer companies out there that tried to open new stuff and that failed. If people don't buy it, doesn't matter how smart you are. Mm-hmm. People have to buy what you're selling. So even though he thought he was in control, he wasn't in control. God was in control with the consumers. If the consumers did not buy it, it don't matter how smart you are. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of patterns out there over the years that somebody put out there, and they couldn't sell it. Yeah. So they went under. And that's a very smart thing. Now, you know the electric car came out in 1908. The very first electric car. Never took off.
I don't doubt it. But you were just saying, like, how he people aren't in control of, whatever company you're in, if the consumers don't buy it, because you know what? When Steve Jobs came out with a Macintosh, he was expecting everybody to love it.
Yep.
That they're going to look at this and they're going to be like, I want it. I don't know why, but I want it. But what happened, actually, was that people found out, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
Like I don't and there's only so much that I can do with it.
Yep.
So what happened was people stopped buying it.
Yep.
And so the fight that actually got Steve kicked out of Apple, it got kicked off the board and got kicked out of the CEO seat.
Yeah.
Or actually not the CEO seat, because actually John Scully was, but he was kind of completely kicked out of Apple.
Yeah.
Because he believed in the Macintosh. He believed that the Macintosh can still make money, that it can still get better. But other people believe that the one of the first computers that Apple actually officially came out with was the Apple II.
Yeah.
And so the board wanted to take resources from making the Macintosh and even upgrading it, advancing it, and making it better. They wanted to take that away and put those resources into updating the Apple II, where the Apple II was actually making a lot of money.
Yep.
So you're completely right, though. So they were not in control at all about what the consumers were going to do.
Nobody is. It's just a matter of what God lets us do. And I'm a strong believer of that. Or a timing. Like the electric car, like I said, first came out in 1908. It never really took off. They re-entered the electric car back in 1960s. Never took off. Now look. You got Tesla. Electric cars are starting to be the thing of today.
Oh, yeah.
It's the timing is right now. Back then, God said the timing ain't there. God, as much as people like to believe it or not, God has a lot to do with how the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
There's certain things we are supposed to do and certain things we ain't supposed to do. Some people, I feel, that don't ever get rich and famous or anything like that because they're not meant to.
Yeah.
It may change. What people don't realize is it may change you in certain ways that it's not good for you.
Well, my 10th grade world history teacher, his name was John Davis. I called him Mr. Davis, obviously. But he was a really cool dude, and he actually played in the NFL for, I think it was 3 seasons. He was a kicker. He was the starting kicker for the Seattle Seahawks. I think he got drafted in 89.
No.
And he said that he had an injury after, I think it was his 3rd season. And he just never got back to it. He said he still could play football after, but by the time his injury was fully healed, he said nobody wanted him.
Yeah.
And he said, and because we were talking about it one time in class, because I was a football player, and we had a ton of other football players in the class, and we're talking, and so my football team in high school wasn't the best.
No.
And he actually called us out because there was this one player that was sitting there talking all this trash about football and all this. He was like, he looked at him and started talking trash back. He's like, he said, you play football at Hope County High School. He's like, you ain't no good. You ain't doing nothing. He's like, how many games have you guys won this year? And this was about halfway through the season. He's like, well, none. He said, okay. So all of those games you lost. You couldn't make a single play to make you guys win. And he started talking, and he was, the kid ended up getting all butthurt and everything. He's like, well, what do you know about football? He's like, well, actually, I'm a kicker. I was a kicker for the Seahawks. Pulled out his, I guess they do yearbook things.
Yeah, they do yearbooks. Yeah.
And he pulled out like 2 or 3 of them. And he's like, look, that's me right there. He's like, Google my name, I promise you. And he was showing him all this stuff. And so we're talking about what happened, and he explained it. And the kid was like, well, weren't you devastated by your injury? He's like, no, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And everyone was kind of confused, and they're like, what do you mean? You'd be making millions, and you'd be on TV, and you'd be doing all this night. He's like, you're right. But I guarantee you, I would have gotten into drugs and prostitutes and all kinds of stuff that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
But all the money, he said, I would have so much money, I wouldn't know what to do with it. And that's why 95% of celebrities and these famous people end up getting, like overdose or getting into drugs.
And you gotta think about it. That's why Jesus says, and I know I quote this phrase way too much. He says that it's easier to fit a camel through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get to heaven.
Yeah.
God don't want us rich. Because here's the thing, once you get rich, you get greedy. Once you get greedy, you get money hungry, you get into bad stuff, of a lot of illegal stuff or bad stuff, or you get corrupt. You don't help thy neighbor no more, you're all about yourself. God is not about making you rich. He's about getting you by.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people, they're like, oh, I wish I was rich. Well, then go with the devil, because the devil will make you rich. The devil will give you what you want. He will give you all that money. He will give you, when you get there, he will get you into drugs. He will get you into trouble. He will get you on the wrong end of the platform. And then never, guess what? After your short term on this earth, you're not going to heaven.
Yeah.
You're forever serving.
You're forever condemned to hell. Here's the thing, and I'm not saying all rich people are going to hell. No, that ain't the case. There are some honest rich people that actually earn their way there, but who are very giving with their money, like Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves actually donates most of his money to cancer. Most of what he makes out of all his movies, he donates. For the longest time, Keanu Reeves didn't even have a car. He took the subway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what you do with the money that's going to get you to whichever way you go. But here's the problem with God, with a lot of good people. He don't let you get rich because he knows that your mind is at that point to, if you got to that richness, you're not going to go on the righteous path. You're going to go on the opposite path.
Right.
So, like Garth Brooks says best, some of the best prayers are the unanswered prayers. God don't answer certain prayers for a reason. He ain't going to give you $1 million for a reason. But he's here to help you. He's going to give you strength. He's going to take away all your worries, take away all your faith. All you got to do is have faith. But one thing he will guarantee you is if you work hard and you give it your all and you follow his word, follow his path, and do your best to be the best person you can be throughout your life, you will never die of hunger. You will never freeze to death. And you will live a very fulfilling life. Is what he will do. He is not going to make you rich. He is not going to give you all the riches in the world. But he will give you a very fulfilling life. And then afterwards, when you pass, he will put you into eternal lovingness and eternal life, which is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
So it's about how you see out of it. Everything that happens to us, like you said, happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You gotta look for that reason. He puts people in your lives for different reasons. One is either lesson or a blessing.
But sometimes
What you learn from it is what you learn.
But sometimes, and again, I'm a strong believer. Everything happens for a reason. But I don't think that we can look for those reasons, and it's all about being vigilant of God's plan, because things are revealed in God's plan. When these things come along in our life that God planned out for us, the reason of, oh, why did that happen? So, that's why that happened so long ago in my life. Because now, this is happening, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, I think sometimes, it's gonna be unanswered. Like kind of like what you were saying, unanswered prayers. I think there will be unanswered reasons throughout life, and we're not going to know those reasons until we get up to heaven.
Well, I think there's the answers, we just don't know how to see it. There's things that we just can't see because we're closed-minded people. I think there's an answer for everything. It's just whether or not we're willing to see it or we can see it. I mean, we're very closed-minded people. A lot of times, like I see it a lot, like somebody has a bad breakup, and they just think the other person's idiot and all this, and they just badmouth each other and this, that, and the other one. Really, the breakup happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And God could have been that reason to make you break up, because you break up, but then 5 years down the road, you find your soulmate. It's something like that. And I think a lot of people, too, is everybody needs to be with somebody when you want to talk about, like, relationship status. Everybody wants to be with somebody, and then they complain that they can't find nobody. But maybe it's just God telling you, learn how to live by yourself first. If you can't live by yourself or love yourself, you ain't gonna love anybody else, no matter what you do. So sometimes he has you single for a reason. Sometimes he keeps you alone. Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness all by himself, fighting the devil by himself, so he could learn how to be alone and how to train his mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to be single or alone to learn how to love, because if you can't love yourself, you can't love others. And God himself wants you to love everybody. So sometimes he's going to make you stay single, so you can learn the true meaning of love. So there's reasons for everything, and God has a plan. We need to sit down and learn to follow his plan, I guess would be the easiest way. Follow his plan, give him your burdens, give him your troubles, work your hardest to do what you have to do, but let him help you. Let him help you along the way. Let him guide you. He will guide you to the right direction.
Yes.
I mean, I see so many people like sitting here and they talk about all this bad in their lives, why does this always happen to me? It's always just me, this happens only to me.
Or why did God do this?
Yeah. But if you watch at the path of life, it's not what God's doing or why it's happening to you. It's happening to you because of the choices you're making down that path. You're not trusting in God. I can honestly say, I see especially girls at work. They're, I'm single, I can't find a good man, Yet they're going after all the gangbanging dudes, the little punks living in the mother's basement, rather than they got a whole friend full of friends list guys who are good, hard-working, honest guys that will take care of them, which they ignore because they're not the cool ones who are doing the drugs and doing the partying and playing with guns and whatever. That's your bad choices. God had these people there to help you. You're just not looking that way. You're looking at the other way because you want to see the fun way, because you don't want to be with that boring person that's just going to sit home and watch TV or sit home and play in the garden or sit home and mow the lawn. You want that guy that's going to go out to the nightclub and party and get drunk and get stoned and whatever else.
Yeah.
It's your choice in life. You go after that direction, that's where you're going to get. You follow the chase of the devil is going to get you what you want at the moment, not what you need. God is going to give you what you need for the long term.
Yeah.
You just got to follow and watch.
Yeah, I agree. Something had come to mind when you were talking, and then I kind of lost it.
I didn't want to do that. I've done that 4 times. I just feel lucky it came back quick.
What you just said, Dad, about, you know, girls wanting the guy, claiming they want good guys and all that, but then go after the ones that, you know, are going to the club and all that stuff. It's not a very Christian song, but it is a song that I think encapsulates that and the whole, just the idea of wanting, claiming, but going in a separate direction. And that's if you ever heard of the artist, he actually does he has some Christian music as well. And he just recently did a feature with NF, but his name is Hobson. He's an underground independent artist. But he's very good. He's a rapper. And he has a series of songs he calls Ill Mind. And obviously the first one's Ill Mind of Hobson 1, then you got 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. I think he got up to 8 and he stopped. He may have gone up to 9. But number 5 is, I think, one of my favorites, especially on that topic, because, you know, the first verse, he's talking to this kid who's like a teenager, like 16, 17, and all they do is go to school, and when they come home, they just hang out with all their friends and smoke weed and do all this stuff, but then complain because they don't have money to go do stuff. Mm-hmm. And his whole point of the song is like, dude, you do literally nothing. And one of the lines was, you don't write, you don't draw, you don't play ball, you literally do nothing at all. And it's just that, and it's all about how they think that their lifestyle is the best and that they should be making all this money doing it, and that, you know, they're so special and all this, but they're complaining because they're not getting money and their life's going nowhere and all this. And he's basically saying, but what are you doing to get somewhere?
Yeah.
You're literally doing nothing. And
best to go with that I see is you see girls complain about being broke and all this, not getting nowhere, yet they sit there and how they got the best boyfriend in the world, yet the guy lives in his mommy's basement, he drives her car, he don't have a job, and he hangs around with his buddies all day long, and while she works 2 jobs trying to get ahead, and she puts him on a pedestal like he's king of the world, yet she complains because she's broke all the time.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like this, the guy, kind of find a guy that actually wants to get a job and a career.
Well,
do something.
That's actually his second verse. He usually doesn't have hooks in these, so it's just verse after verse. But his second point is about women who are claiming exactly what you said, claiming they, you know, want this good guy and all this, but they're going to the club and looking for him. And one of his points is, he said, once a week you put on your earrings and you're half naked with your butt shaking. Yeah. And he's like, claiming you want a guy like Romeo, and he says, that's a lie.
Yeah.
And he says something else about looking for Romeo like he's in the back of the club, posted up waiting. Like anyone in that club is gonna be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, and that's just, he has another one, but.
That's a good point, because I got a movie reference. I can't tell you the title of the movie because I don't remember. But I seen it as a kid, and this was actually an eye-opener movie for me about actually people. The basics of the movie is there's this hot girl, and obviously this nerd, who is her best friend, loves her. He's in love with her. Full love with her. But she likes the tough guy, troublemaker, bad boy. And basically the concept of the movie, like, he's always there whenever she falls. Every time she gets hurt, he's there picking her up, helping her. And he shows all his love to her and shows how much he loves her. And she just keeps putting him in the friend zone and just like ignoring. Well, finally it gets to a point where she gets knocked up, and she's a teenager, and it's back when that wasn't okay.
I still don't think it's okay.
No, but this was when it was
It's more
socially
yeah.
not okay.
Yeah.
Well, he wound up, and I'm against abortion, but he wound up paying for her to get an abortion, and then after abortion, he took care of her for like a couple of weeks where she's sick, and all this. And he even admitted how much he loved her all her life, and he'd take care of her and all this, and he had a job, and this, that, and the other. And there's actually college students, and he went to college and had a job with the guys that should date were dropouts and losers, or the one who knocked her up. Well, got her back to health and all this, and then she wound up going back to the guy who knocked her up, who wasn't there the whole time. Once he found out he knocked her up, he dumped her. She went back to him and all this, so he's like all depressed and all this. Well, moral of the story, towards the end, she fell again, but he wasn't there to pick her up, and she was all crying. And her best friend, who was a female, looked and said, all your life you had so-and-so who loved you, would have done anything for you. And he was off, and this was like a little bit later in life, he was off, he's like some smart businessman or whatever. And she goes, all your life, he was there for you. He would have done anything for you. When he got your abortion, he paid for your abortion. He helped you through the sicknesses. He got you there. And then the second you got healthy, you ditched him and ran off to these losers again. And now, he's off with his own wife because he wanted to find a girl and got married. And now he's on with his own wife. She hasn't made it. Now you're jealous of him. All this, but you brought it on yourself. You had it.
But
you just didn't see it.
I think that's a blessing for him.
It's a blessing for him.
I feel like if she would have gone with him, he would have not made it as far.
It works and how blind humans are, and how people complain about stuff, but it's our choices that we see, and God puts people on our place. Like in my thing, in this movie, God put that guy in her there to help her out through the thing.
Yeah.
She was just too blind to see God's help.
Yeah, you know what? I remembered.
I don't remember
When-
anymore.
No, I remember what I was gonna say. It was you said just a little bit ago with people helping people or whatever. I can't remember, but you said something that triggered that thought. Where again, having a community of people, or just having having friends that are willing to come and help you, to pick you up and uplift you. God puts those people in your life not just to comfort you or to talk to or just hang out with, but he put those people in your life to kind of stretch out his hand within them to help you. That was kind of my thought. And once again, the community thing, it's very important to have a community of people in your life that are willing to help you.
Definitely.
Always, and to try to uplift you and try to
And
do whatever they can.
God puts those people there all the time. Like every single day of your life. People don't realize this, but every single day of your life, in every moment of your life, in every move of your life, you have a blessing or a lesson right in front of you.
Yeah.
It's a matter of you seeing it.
Yeah.
And half the time we don't see it. That's the problem. But it's always right there. It's a matter of you seeing it.
Yeah. And just real quick, how you were explaining the whole the girl got back together with that guy that knocked her up,
Yep.
and after she had the abortion and she was sick or depressed or whatever, and this guy was taking care of her, the guy that really loved her, that really actually cared for her and wanted to help her and everything else and wanted to support her. And then she left. Basically, she left him in the dust. Went back to the other guy, and so I was getting a revelation of what that sounds like. It sounds like when people actually need help, who do they go to? God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once something feels like it's getting back
Good.
to right, then
They
they
forget about God.
bye.
Yep.
That really caught my spirit for when you were explaining it. It just caught me.
And it's truth. We all pray to God when we're down, but you forget about Him when you're up. Kind of like what they say about people who are anti-gun. You're anti-gun on all most days, but when somebody's robbing you, you call somebody with a gun.
Exactly. Or if you get robbed, people that want to defund the police.
Yep.
Oh, you're getting robbed. Oh, okay. Well, then.
We want the police. So I want to do Psalms 46:1-3. God is our refuge and our strength, and ever-present help in trouble. With that being said, Devin, what's your comment?
My comment section, I think it's gonna be pretty quick to the point this time. But what I want my comment section to be is the whole episode we've been talking about giving God your faith, letting Him take control. And I just want to know from the people, is there a moment you have done that and it worked out for you? Has there been a moment where you were just like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. God, do whatever you have to do. Fix it. And you came back, and on the flip side of it, you're like, you know what? I'm actually glad that happened. I'm glad I went through that.
I like that. Go ahead, Isaiah.
I mean, I was kind of trying to think about one throughout the podcast and even before. And Devin, I think you kind of took it a little bit with that one, but it's okay. But I think what I'm gonna ask is, do you feel that you struggle on a daily, or maybe on a weekly, or a few times a month, or maybe it's more than a few times a month? Do you struggle with letting God taking control of situations that you come in, that just happen, that you just stumble into a situation and you have no idea what to do, you have no idea what to think or what to say to anybody or who to go to, or, you know, do you think you struggle? How much do you think you struggle with that? Whether it's on a daily or a weekly or monthly, you know, how much do you believe you struggle with it? And do you believe, I think this is like a part 2 actually. Do you think it would help more that going to God, praying, and just letting Him take control, taking the reins of your situations? I don't know.
Alright, on my comment section, kind of 2 parts. I want you, it's kind of a challenge of, I want you to take where you are in your life, take all your struggles and all your anxieties, all your depressions and all your fears, everything you have bottled up. And I want you today to pledge a prayer to God that you give it all to Him to help you strive to be better and to move on to the next spiritual level, to hit that next plane. Part 2, I want you to look around in your life at people in your life and find out who in your life right now is your blessing, your angel, your stronghold that is always there to help you through to meet the next level of God.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And that's all I got for today. With that being said, I hope you have a great week.
And don't forget, faith over fear.
Sorry, I took you.
You didn't do your thing, Devin.
I was about to. Wow. Over in the bottom corner.